Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll take the next 25 minutes of your time to tell you about certain things that if you're a practitioner, you have felt it. The shift in thinking about the young people and about how they use the internet. So there is a certain paradigm shift. And what we're focusing on as researchers, what right now we're researching in young people and their online behavior. Do we research good phenomena or bad phenomena? And are we more, as researchers and academics, interested in preventing bad things from happening, or are we more interested in going into and in fostering positive things? We still have the old paradigm that's a risk-focused paradigm. And it's still pretty much alive in schools, in certain environments. But the new paradigm is already coming about. There are places where researchers, people, think more towards the positive side rather than prevent the negative side. So I'll talk about the old paradigm, the risk-focused paradigm, and I'll talk about the new one a little bit, but it's not like the king died, long live the king, like the old paradigm, down with it, and now we'll have a new paradigm because it's so good and there are no risks and we should be all happy, and so on. No, I'll talk about both paradigms. And I'll give you a handful of my observations, and I'll give you a glimpse at my study that I haven't even published. Actually, two studies. One study is on a sample of 1,500 people at the age group 13-18, randomly selected. We have been commissioned by the National Office for Preventing Drug Abuse, and we were more interested in gambling and other behaviors, but actually there was some bit of the online element here. And there is another study that we did for the Regional Social Policy Center in the city of Łódź, and we researched young people who are in care of education centers for special needs young people, so hard of hearing, the children with disabilities, and so on. So I'll focus on both two paradigms, but I'll throw in some of my observations and some of the studies results. Well, the old paradigm, the risk-focused paradigm. It all started with crowd, where people started researching all the bad events, all the threats that might have happened, all the risks. So researchers delved into damages to relationships in the real world, mental health of young people who use the internet. There was not a lot of research then, but still it was widely talked about. Sometimes the research was not really well constructed because it was, the sample was not selected properly. Like, for example, I don't know, who wants to participate? Please come in and participate. 15 people came to participate. 7 of them said they're afraid for their mental health. Then the researchers said, well, everyone is saying they're afraid for their mental health. So, it was a little bit unreliable. So there has been good research in the old paradigm, but still some people focus the old research. There is the study New Kids Online, and if you take a report from this study, it's easy to just see the negative things. So sometimes the researchers do a good job. They balance the good things, the bad things in the online world and the use of internet. But then people tend to look at the negative stuff as well, because, what sells best in the media? It's obvious. So when researchers started going into the subject of young people online, they started researching the internet. They actually focus on the internet. So like, hey, what are you doing online? What are your behaviors online? But they ignored the fact that those kids had also their existence in the offline world. So, for example, it was a kid who was a gamer and used to play some games that had an element of violence. They might say, you know what, probably there is a cause and effect. If he plays those violent games, and in the offline world has certain behaviors and attitudes, there must be a cause and effect link. But it doesn't have to be, because if you look at a broader picture, at a bigger picture, and if you look at what this kid does in the offline world, maybe it's an aggressive kid altogether. And the kid was aggressive in the first place, and then he started liking aggressive games. So, it doesn't have to be cause and effect, or it could be the other way around. Sometimes there are two parallel things, offline and online. Did he start playing violent games and started being aggressive online, or was he first aggressive in the offline world and started playing those games? But, if you have this risk-focused paradigm, people are sometimes not thinking in which direction the cause and effect works, especially people who don't know about the research methodologies, the technical things, Like, for example, there was an example of this little boy named Dominic who committed suicide. And when the general public started looking into this, they're saying it's because of the online world, it's how kids react today, it's the internet, it played a role, and so on and so on. So that's how we're thinking. Like, for example, after this boy's death, a lot of hate speech came up. Some websites that before they were removed from the internet, I could read some of the hate speech, but a lot of comments were, we don't like the hate speech, we hate that. But when you think about the general public and how the general public reacted to the boy's death, they just took the hate speech and said, look what the internet does. And no one considered that there was a lot of movement against the hate speech. So it was like, if you are a researcher, there is this old paradigm. Be focused on risk. If you're a practitioner, focus on preventing threats and keeping them away, keeping them safe from harm. So that's what people did. They were saying the same when Walkmans came into the market. When kids start walking and listening to their music, they will shut off the outside world. They will have no relationships, and so on and so on. Did you have Walkmans, you guys? Probably you did. I did. But at that time, it was a absolutely big conviction in the public that, those people would become deaf because they're walking around with their Walkmans. But are you deaf? Am I deaf? No. But that was the paradigm, focusing on threats, focusing on risks. But some other people were saying, you know what? Walkmans are not that bad because when kids walk with them, they can listen to the music and do other things as well, so it's good. But no one forgets, no one remembers the good things coming from the Walkman. So, look at this. Whenever there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of, these are kids who are in a Chinese camp, which is like an internet detox camp, or an internet rehab camp. Radical solutions. If the fear of the internet is big, the solutions are sometimes pretty radical. And some people say that we do need radical solutions. The threats are so big, so we have to really address it head on and be very strong. So strong risk, big fear, very strong reactions, very strong emotions, right? But let's start talking about the new paradigm now. This conference, look at all you guys. At first, we started talking about threats, but 2 years ago, opportunities came into our agenda. Now, look at this year. We talk more about opportunities. If you look at all the 9 agendas so far, you'll see how the new paradigm has sort of started coming in very quickly. So, the technology is developing quickly. It changes those people, but it changes them also in a good way. New contacts, new relationships, new knowledge, no limits, no borders. It might equalize chances. It might work as a big equalizer. I mean, people expected that from the internet, that will be equalized, whether we have disabilities or we don't have disabilities, whether we're rich or poor will be equalized. So it is this positive. There is this positive thing. But, well, some people even thought the internet could be the cure to inequalities, material, financial, educational. That's also pretty radical, honestly, but it's the other way around. So it's not risk-oriented, and it's more like it's the cure. So we're moving away from the risk, and we're going out there in this wide, wonderful space, saying this new technology is going to be wonderful. It's going to work wonders. It's not that either, right? Do we know what they do online? We know. Some cyberbullying, some porn. We know that there is a percentage who run a blog. There is a percentage who look for materials for school, right? But actually, we don't know why. If you put an online-enabled device on the table and one girl says, I'm going to go to a site with anorexics, and the other guys might say, and I'm going to run a very nice blog about my hobbies. So we don't know of the mechanism. What makes a kid look online for what they're looking for? Why are they looking for this and not for that, right? We have some studies from Dr. Kirvil. We have some studies, well, I have run some studies, and we know there is a link between the good things and the bad things that kids do online and the behaviors of their parents, but not online behaviors of their parents, but generally behaviors. Like, for example, do kids whose parents are only guardians of the internet access do more good things or bad things? What about kids who work online and play online with their parents? Because there are relationships, right? And there is a link between the situation at home, whether they do fun stuff together, or whether they do fun stuff online, whether they're close-knitted families, or whether there's violence. There is a link between the general climate at home and how they're going to behave online. There is a link here. So what's more important? The internet. Is the internet relevant here? Or is it really about family relationships? Because if you think of other things like substance abuse, look at this. You'll see the same relationship. If this happens at home, this will happen to them in their life. So we should be we should think of the potential of the family, not just the potential of the internet. There is some utopia. That's most of the time is not true. For example, well, 2 quotes. We've done over 150 interviews. These were interviews with special needs children. They said, I use my computer, I use the internet, but not longer than 1 hour. I look to the music. I go on Facebook. I play games a little bit. I listen to some music. I try not to spend too much time online, but I like to listen to music online. I like to be on Facebook. I like to play games. I like to do some cooking and so on. So that it doesn't seem threatening, right? Typical things. 70-80% of kids say that that's what they do online. So Facebook, music, stuff like that. And these are special needs kids. They're not doing anything wrong or anything bad is happening to them, but are they doing something good? Is it really beneficial? Is it so wonderful for them? It's not good either, right? They're just average. So if I did some meta-analysis, and I'm going to show it to you, and I'll get back to this. If I did this meta-analysis, that's what would happen. There's a small percent of kids who go into serious stuff online and intellectually develop, then a little bit of the white, then the average is the green, and then you have those small group of kids who do wonderful things, several percent. So some small percentage do bad things, small percentage do wonderful things, and all in the middle is neither here nor there. So we actually have more or less the same reason to go into the risk-focused paradigm as to go into the opportunity-focused paradigm, because it's the same amount, the same several percent, extreme percent. But actually, if you look at researchers, huge amount of researchers go into researching negative things, and only tiny percentage of researchers research good things. And how many programs there are that counteract threats that are funded by the government and so on. How many programs are funded that would promote good things rather than counteract bad things? But actually, it's the same several percent, the same amount. Do good things and do bad things. If you just go on Facebook and talk about your hobbies and stuff, say 68% do it. Run your own blog, 6.5, 10 times less. We don't even know what this blog is all about, but at least it's active, at least it's creative. But only 6.5% will do it in this huge sample. Online games, 70% girls, 15% boys, overall 40% of them play games. 40%, and researchers have said that everyone plays games online. Only 40% actually, not all. Look for information, run your own website, your own fan page, or run a fan page for an organization, 15%, right? Smaller amount. So the more active it is, the more involved it is, smaller amounts do it. What about other things? Using online, using the internet for school, 76%, but you know, sometimes you just print something off the internet and don't read it. Sometimes you're more creative. So maybe it's not going to be 76% who would really creatively use the internet for school.
Now, other most recent data. Discussion with educators, 9%. Volunteering on the internet. It's 6 out of 100 would do it. So when we move to the groups that have some specific interest, it's just 13%. So this is the group which goes beyond Facebook. This is the group that explores some problems or some hobbies or some interest. Okay, 3 minutes left. So I have to speed up. But can we promise a lot? No, we cannot. Because remember books? How many people would read inspiring books? Or how many people would watch typical TV programming, and how many would watch some creative or science-oriented programs? Well, we make promises, but we never deliver them. So what is the relation between online and offline? Just a quick glance. This is the most recent data. Are you aggressive at school? You're not aggressive at school. You're not aggressive in cyberspace. If you bully someone at school, you also commit cyberbullying. So where do you have the impact of the internet? And now about the good stuff. This is important slide. 40% of bloggers keep traditional diaries, and only 9% of non-bloggers keep diaries. 22% of those who regularly play online meet very often to play Scrabbles, and 18% of non-gamers would play Scrabble. So gamers do not really avoid regular contacts. 48, so almost 50% of people who are administrators and active people on the internet are also the chairman of classes and chairman of clubs, etc. 50% of internet volunteers are engaged in the regular volunteering, and only 23% of those who don't volunteer on internet volunteer in real life. So look how important this data is for us, for educators. So why am I saying that this is just half true? Because it's not that I do things here and there, but I do the same things here and there. So I am, let's say, a chair of the karate club, but I also have a discussion on Facebook about karate. So this is like the same thing in two worlds. And the last two slides. First, look at chess. Okay, chess help inspire thinking, etc. Can you say the same about the video or online games? The researchers look at all the studies, and what do they find? They said that there's no evidence. It's easy to come up with evidence about aggression, but you don't really have experimental studies. But look, there are different games out there. The outcomes of using games are the same as outcomes of using different foods. So you can say, what is the effect of the hamburger and what is the effect of grapes? But overall, they actually found a number of studies that confirmed that there are some cognitive things. It turned out that even this Lanxess can teach something beyond the internet. So there are some motivational issues, there are emotional gains and social gains, and there are some serious games. Just read about re-emission. This is a game for kids with cancer. They may shoot to cancer cells, and they learn how to take care of their health. And there is an evidence that it works. But my question is, so many young people play games. Why not all of them have the same outcomes? Who's familiar with this game, River Ride? So the most recent, the last interpretation and the last two slides. Experts were asked what's going to happen in 10 years. The question was asked in 2010. 67% said those who share information, are online all the time, and use the social gains of internet, etc. So even when they become adults, they will continue to be enthusiastic about it, and they will follow up on it. In other words, it will help them for the future, and they will keep on doing the right thing. But 1/3 claims when they grow up, well, probably not many of you will play River Ride, right? So when they grow up, when the gamers grow up, they will find new hobbies and interests as they age, and they will quit this gaming. So these things that are actually advantages that come with the internet may disappear from your life as you age. But the summary slide, what is there? Well, the main message is, let's be smart. We don't have the true paradigm of risk. It's simplified, as it says media is bad. But now we hear that media can also do right things, good things. So try this media and you will see great outcomes in school. And someone said that the language of education and technology sometimes become like the language of advertising, real estate, investing, or political speaking. So, in other words, if something is not right, it is not right. Unlike what you think, offline has the impact on what is happening online. We need to see the junction between the two words. And on top of it, you have to look at the advantages, but don't be overly optimistic. Utopia never works. You remember that when television came around, people were saying that, oh, now we will be able to control politicians, we will have access to knowledge, we will be smarter and wiser. Has it ever happened? No. But everyone thought that the television would give it to everyone. So we cannot have excessive expectations, and we should not make excessive promises, but we have to be smart about it. So the question is for whom and when we introduce technologies. Well, we need to do it, but we should not really look without any criticism at the new emerging paradigm of opportunities. Thank you.